Okay, I'm going to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is what we call our Pali Canon English study group, which I'll explain to you guys what that is a bit later. What we do is we start each one of our classes with meditation because this is going to help you to train your mind and make your way to enlightenment. What enlightenment is, where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't experience any anger, sadness, frustration, or any of these other discontent feelings. You're going to need to meditate, but there's other things besides meditation that you'll need as well. So that's why after our meditation, I'm going to be sharing some teachings with you guys, because everything the Buddha taught is about how to train your mind and do this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development. It's not about rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. The Buddha never actually taught any of those things. So we actually do the work here to help you to understand how to train your mind. So if you're interested in getting to a point where your mind's peaceful and joyful, that's what the enlightened mental state is. If you'd like to join for meditation, the way that we start this is with some chanting. If you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. The chants are over there on a laminated sheet on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to commit the teachings to memory, that every 2 weeks his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So they used it as a learning tool, as a learning device to commit the teachings to memory. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, where today we use chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So you'll see that benefit if you decide that you would like to chant along. And if you end up getting one of those sheets and you see the English translations on them, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death, because the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and said, "Here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me." This would be ego or arrogance if someone did that. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't think of yourself as being above people or below people. You just think of everybody as being equal. So I'm sure the Buddha wouldn't have created these. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings like guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, and others, and this teacher was helping you out of the kindness of their heart, they didn't want anything or expect anything from you, you might actually have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's why I think these chants actually came from his students. So we're going to be using these as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing you some guidance where I'll essentially be teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating. Everyone here at the temple and anyone joining online will just all be meditating. Now, during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone here might cough or sneeze. This is all normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. This is why you can eliminate your discontent feelings, because it's the mind itself that's actually causing them. So when you're in meditation, if you understand the world around you is impermanent and it's constantly changing, you can be at ease when you hear that sound. You just understand that that's normal, that this sound's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. Then after the quiet time, we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. And that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand what the Pali Canon and English study group is. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times as part of your journey to enlightenment. It's kind of like assembling a tool belt, and you use the different tools that you need at different times in order to be able to train your mind and be able to practice meditation. Oftentimes, students are learning in the seated position, so I'll help you guys with this. I teach the other positions in our retreats and courses. You're more than welcome to learn in those as well. But since you're here and sometimes people are just starting out with meditation, I'll give you guys some guidance with the seated position. You could be sitting on the floor. You could sit in a chair. Maybe if somebody's at home, they might be on a bench or a sofa in a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. There's not just one way to sit, because that would be permanence. And we don't live in that world. We live in an impermanent world. So you can sit however you like. You can use things that I'm sharing with you as maybe recommendations or suggestions, but you can come up with something on your own as well, because you're not training the body here, you're training the mind. So you would like to be able to focus on training the mind, but you need the body to be comfortable so that you can actually train the mind. You're not interested in the body being painful, and you're also not interested in being luxurious, but instead be in the middle where it's comfortable. So if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This is going to help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation in the lower body and cause pain. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets their hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing's true for anybody who's in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect. With the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched like this, the mind will have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you are real rigid with the upper body, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you like the upper body to be erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. Not only will it help keep the mind attentive and alert, but it'll make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. What meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session. You're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind, and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. So I'm going to get started with the chanting. You guys are welcome to join in, and then I'll come back in with the guidance afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savakasangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso emakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Buddha Bhagavato Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here, you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice it move off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Putang Mahakewanhang Apiwateyami Savakato Mahakewata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakewato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakewa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sekato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusrang Oto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. The individual who we refer to as the Buddha figured out 2,500 years ago how to get to enlightenment. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll no longer experience any discontent feelings. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't experience anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this can be eliminated from the mind by training the mind. Oftentimes people think these are being caused by other people or the outside world that is causing you to be angry, but it's actually your mind itself that is causing that. And the Buddha figured out the underlying cause of what's producing that, and then he taught you how to eliminate it from the mind. His tools and techniques are to help you to train your mind and eliminate the causes and conditions that are producing these discontent feelings. When you get to enlightenment, you'll notice that your mind's focused, you'll have concentration, clarity, and deep memory, that your mind's performing optimally by the time you get to that point. All your relationships will really be blossoming. You'll see all your relationships are at ease because in the unenlightened state, you'll have a certain amount of bitterness, harshness, and hostility in your mind. And you're going to put that out, maybe blaming it on other people, thinking that other people are causing that. And now when you put out that bitterness and hostility, it's actually coming back to you in your relationships. You can get to a point where you're not even experiencing a bad mood anymore, that it's physically impossible for an enlightened being to experience that. So it's through training of the mind that this is occurring. It's not belief that you're believing a bunch of things and hoping something good happens when you die. It's about learning, growing, and developing in this life, getting to a point where you're doing this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development, becoming a better and better being. So the Buddha is giving you the guidance of how to actually accomplish that. And we have various programs here that help you to be able to understand that. On Sundays and Wednesdays, I have something called the Group Learning Program, where we go chapter by chapter chapter in this book. This is the first book of our book series, and I go chapter by chapter each Sunday, helping students to be able to understand the path to enlightenment. Tomorrow, I'm going to be in the very back of the book. It's called Frequently Asked Questions, because we're coming to an end of this program, and we're going to be restarting it on the 9th of August, so that way, if you like to start from the very beginning, you can learn either here or online. You can actually learn how to gradually be training your mind. And all this stuff is available to you at no cost, whether it's the books, the videos, the podcasts, personal guidance, whether it's the courses or programs or retreats. You can learn all of this stuff at no cost. So there's various opportunities here for you, and you'll find these on our bulletin board over there, or you'll look at our website and you'll be able to see them on our website. On Saturdays, what we do is called the Pali Canon in English Study Group. What we do is we study volumes 2 through 13 of our book series, and today we're actually in this book. It's volume 6. It's titled The Natural Law of Kamma. This is the natural law that the Buddha is helping you to be able to cultivate wisdom about. Now, some people call this karma. You might have actually heard that before. That's from the Sanskrit language. The Pali language, which the original teachings of the Buddha are in, they use the word kamma. This means cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. When you make decisions wisely, you will experience wholesome kamma, or wholesome results. But when you make decisions unwisely, you will experience unwholesome kamma, or unwholesome results. Oftentimes, when people are experiencing unwholesome things coming back in their life, they actually think it's good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate, or they might think it's some being like God that's controlling what you experience. Or some people blame it on the universe, that there's this entity called the universe that is controlling what you experience. Or some people blame it on others, and they think that what they're experiencing is because of other people. But it's actually your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you experience in day-to-day life. And the Buddha helps you to be able to see this by cultivating wisdom of the natural law of Kamma. This isn't anything mystical or magical. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. It's about seeing the causes and conditions that produce certain decisions in your mind. And then when you make those decisions, it's going to produce certain results in your life. And the beauty about this is it really empowers you to improve any aspect of your life that you would like. Because if there's anything that's going on in your life that you would rather that thing not occur, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you'll experience different results. But because people don't understand that, and they're blaming what they experience on good luck and bad luck, destiny and fate, God, or some entity called the universe, or other people, you never actually cultivated the needed wisdom to make different decisions and experience different results. So an individual will just stay stuck in this cycle of continuing to experience the same things over and over and over again, rather than improving what it is that they experience on a day-to-day basis. So while all of our other programs, I teach in a more traditional method where I teach for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and I open up for questions, and I teach 15, 30 minutes, open up for questions. In this program, we do it a little bit differently. This isn't where somebody would normally start their journey to enlightenment, but if this is your first time here, which I know many of you guys it is, that's no problem. You guys will learn plenty today, but there's other foundational programs that will actually help you to be able to really get started on the path in a better way. Here, what we're doing is we're actually studying the teachings of the Buddha and through more of a study group. What I do is I invite students here and those that are on Zoom to be able to read a chapter from the original words of the Buddha. These chapters are actually quite short. You can see this one's barely a half a page. And after somebody reads this chapter, I'm going to share some teachings on this, helping you understand how to integrate it into your life. Then I'm going to open up to any and all questions that you guys have. Whether you're here at the temple or you're online, you guys can ask questions. So if you're here at the temple and you would like to volunteer to read this chapter, or if you'd like to ask any questions, we have microphones in the middle of the room there in the white bowl. There's also some up here in the front. If you could get a microphone and press the gray button, that's going to turn on the lights, and you hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple and be able to hear you online as well. And that'll make it easier for everybody to be able to participate. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone with them. And if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then for anybody who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand to ask questions or volunteer to read. So is there anybody here that would like to volunteer to read this first, or anybody on Zoom that would like to volunteer to read this first chapter? Yeah, please, go for it. Mm-hmm. You can go ahead and read this one. Yeah. You just need to press the gray button, though, to turn it on. Not yet. It takes about a second or two to engage once you turn it on. They're Buddhist microphones. You need to be patient with them. The battery's dead? Yeah, it's on now.
Okay. A great gift. Monks hear a noble disciple, having abandoned the destruction of life, abstains from the destruction of life. By abstaining from the destruction of life, the noble disciple gives to an immeasurable number of beings freedom from fear, hospitality, and harm. He himself, in turn, enjoys immeasurable freedom from fear, hospitality, and harm. This is the first gift, a great gift, highest of long-standing, traditional, ancient, untainted, and never before tainted, which is not being tainted and will not be tainted, not refused by wise ascetics and Brahmins. This is the stream of merit, stream of the wholesome nutriment of peacefulness, heavenly rippling peacefulness, conductive to heaven, that leads to what is aspired for, needed and agreeable, to one's welfare and peacefulness. Should I read the?
Sure.
The other four precepts, which are abstaining from the taking of what is not given, abstaining from sexual misconduct, abstaining from lying, and abstaining from consuming intoxicants, substances that causes heedlessness, are repeated with the Buddha's guidance. There are, monks, these 5 gifts, great gifts, highest of long standing, traditional, ancient, untainted, and never before tainted, which are not being tainted and will not be tainted, not refused by wise ascetics and Brahmins.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. So these are the original words of the Buddha. And if you're interested in getting to enlightenment, you would need to study his original words. For 2,500 years, the teachings have been handed down from person to person to person, more in an oral tradition. And this is why you see so many misunderstandings in the world. If you go around different places, you're going to see people doing rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, prayer, and things like this. And this has nothing to do with the path to enlightenment. In fact, you need to be able to understand that that's not part of the path to enlightenment. So by studying the original words of the Buddha, you can see what did he teach and what he didn't teach. But then you never believe these teachings. Instead, what you do is you learn, investigate, and examine his teachings. You reflect on them to verify if they're true or they're false. And then you practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life and making decisions through those teachings. And that's where you cultivate wisdom, and you will see the improvements to the condition of your mind in your life. This particular teaching is helping you to be able to see that by you practicing what we refer to as the 5 precepts, that it's going to give an immeasurable number of beings freedom from fear, hostility, and harm. Because what the 5 precepts are, is this is helping you to understand the natural law of Kamma, of cause and effect, that the Buddha teaches whenever you put out harm, harm is going to come back to you. You can't cause somebody else to be angry or frustrated or agitated or annoyed or any of these other discontent feelings, but you can cause someone harm. Causing someone harm would be to cause harm to their physical body, their material possessions, or their reputation. If you cause harm to someone's physical body, their material possessions, or their reputations, then that means that there's going to be harm that comes back to you. And basically, it's like walking down the beach and there's wind blowing in your face and you're kicking up the sand and the sand is just blowing right back in your face. So if you go out into the world and you're causing harm, then that means this harm is just going to come right back to you. But because people don't understand the natural law of karma, they tend to go out into the world and make unwise decisions. It produces harm, and then harm comes back to them. And that's where people oftentimes blame it on good luck, bad luck, destiny, fate, God, or some entity called the universe, or maybe they blame it on other people, where in reality it's coming from your own decisions. So the Buddha gives you detailed guidance in the 5 precepts where he talks about living compassionately for the welfare of all living beings and not killing beings. This would provide beings freedom from fear, hostility, and harm. Because if you were actively going around trying to kill other beings, then there's going to be beings that are going to experience harm. They're going to experience certain hostility from you. They're going to experience fear in their mind because they're holding on to this life. So by you practicing and choosing to not cause harm through, for example, not killing, those beings are going to experience freedom from fear, hostility, and harm. And as a result, you're going to experience the same thing. Because when you understand that you're not causing any harm to any beings, you can rest at ease. You can be peaceful. If you've ever laid in bed at night thinking about your day and worried about the things that you did, the things that you said, the things that you participated in, and worried and stressed and have anxiety about what you did, that's because you weren't making wise decisions in those situations, and you were worried about the decisions that you made. You weren't sure whether those things were wise or unwise, right? But if you understand this natural law of karma and you understand what it takes to make wise decisions and produce wholesome results, you can rest at ease. You can be peaceful. You can be joyful. And that's where you get freedom from fear, hostility, and harm, because you're not causing harm, so harm isn't coming back to you. But the Buddha talks about the same thing as the other 4 precepts. That's what that paragraph was down here, or at least this sentence down here, is that there's other precepts too. Things like stealing, having sexual misconduct, lying, and taking substances that cause heedlessness. These aren't rules. These aren't commandments. The Buddha's not trying to convince you to do any particular thing. He's just helping you to be able to see the natural law, that when you actually do these things and you choose to make decisions in that regard, it's going to produce harm to other beings, and that harm's going to come back to you. So, for example, if I went out and I stole somebody's car, I'm causing them harm. I've caused harm to the fact that they are no longer able to drive their car to work. And now they can't acquire money to be able to sustain their life. Or they can't take their children to school. Or they can't go to the store and acquire basic necessities to be able to sustain their life. I've caused harm to this individual. And now that harm would come back to me if I chose to do that kind of thing. Same thing if you have sexual misconduct, where maybe you're in a relationship and you go outside your relationship and have sex with someone else. Or if you had sex with minors, or if you forced somebody to have sex, things of this nature. The Buddha gives very detailed guidance on what it means to have sexual misconduct. And you can see this in the 5 precepts. If you cause harm through your sexual activity, harm's going to come back to you. It's not punishments and rewards. He's not trying to guilt, shame, or fear you or try to convince you to do anything. He's just helping you to see the natural law. Because if you did these kinds of things, you could very easily get beat up. You could get murdered. You could get your property destroyed. You could get sexually transmitted diseases. You could have any number of things happen. You can lose your wealth. These are all things that happen as a result of going out and having sex with lots of people. So the Buddha essentially teaches you to just have a relationship with one person at a time. That would be the wisest. Then he teaches you to not lie. Because if you're lying and you're having false speech, people are going to discover those lies. And you're going to find that it's very difficult to produce wholesome results in your day-to-day life. Because if you're interested in building sustaining long-term relationships where people see you as being dependable, reliable, and trustworthy, you're not going to be able to do that if you're lying. And now you're going to have to keep your lies straight from person to person. You're going to have to figure out what you said to one person versus another. And how could you ever get to a peaceful and joyful mind if you're constantly, obsessively trying to figure out what you said from one person to the other? So he teaches you to not lie. Then he teaches you to not take substances that cause heedlessness. Substances that cause heedlessness are things like drugs and intoxicants. These are things that are going to cloud your mind and make it difficult for you to actually train your mind to get to the point where you can actually experience this enlightened mental state. So the Buddha teaches you these in detail. I just kind of gave you a brief overview of some of these things, because when you learn these 5 precepts, it's going to provide you the wisdom that you need about certain moral conduct and about how to conduct yourself in a wise way so that you can experience wholesome Kamma. Again, they're not rules, they're not commandments. He's not trying to convince you to do anything. A Buddha's already gotten to peace. He's already gotten to joy. He didn't need to actually teach. He wasn't required to share what it took for him to get to that enlightened mental state. He shared it with other people out of compassion for them, which is concern for their misfortune. He understood how peaceful and joyful the enlightened mental state is, and he was interested in seeing other people benefit from that too. So he used the rest of his life and dedicated it to helping others to be able to experience this enlightened mental state. So if that's something you're interested in, the teachings of the Buddha are there for you to help you, but you should never see them as rules or commandments or anything like that, but instead it's the opportunity for you to cultivate wisdom to understand these natural laws, and now with that wisdom you will navigate the world more peacefully. Because when you're experiencing anger, stress, anxiety, and all these other feelings, this is the mind living in a world that it doesn't understand. When you're living in a world that you don't understand, you will struggle and you'll have difficulties. That's why the mind's experiencing that stress and anxiety. But when you awaken or you cultivate wisdom about these natural laws, you'll be able to navigate the world peacefully because you understand this world and how it functions. And now you can make wise decisions to produce more and more wholesome results in your life. So let me know if you guys have questions on this one, where the Buddha is helping you to be able to see that by you practicing in a way that doesn't cause harm, then you can have freedom from fear, hostility, and harm, just like the beings that are around you, that if you're not causing harm to them, they'll have freedom from fear, hostility, and harm. Do you guys have questions on this? Let me see online. I don't see any questions here either. Okay, so let's go to the next one. By the way, what you have in each one of these chapters, and you have access to these books, you can download them for free. You can take them and go print it. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us, or you can order them online through Amazon. And if you reimburse us for the printing costs, we'll use those funds to go purchase more books. So you've got the words of the Buddha, which is what we just read. But then you've got this reference that goes back to the original source teachings. What the Pali Canon is, this is the largest, most complete collection that we have of the teachings of the Buddha. It's 45 volumes of books that are about this thick. What we've done here is we've consolidated this into 13 books, and these are extracts from that. So this reference takes you back to the original Pali Canon so you can see where this actually came from. Then you have words from me. This here, it's just very short, but sometimes it's much longer, where there's words from me to teach you how to integrate this into your day-to-day life and get the most benefit out of this teaching. Because as you see, the Buddha teaches very clear, very concise, and very precise. You don't need to interpret his words. You don't need to figure out what he's saying, but you do need a dedicated teacher that's going to help you and guide you through your learning and growth and development. So that's what I'm doing here in these words down here. So in each one of these chapters, that's what you have available to you. So this is chapter 32. Is there someone who would like to read this? Vimpav, you had your hand up earlier. Oh, you like to read? Sure. Yeah, we've got a mic right there.
Hello. Right. Reborn through one's deeds. Monks, beings, are the owners of their heirs of their Kamma. They have Kamma as their origin, Kamma as their relative, Kamma as their resort. Whatever Kamma they do, wholesome or unwholesome, they are its heirs. Here, having abandoned the destruction of life, someone abstains from the destruction of life. With the rod and weapon laid aside, dedicated and kindly, he resides compassionate towards all living beings. He does not creep along by body, speech, and mind. His bodily Kamma is straight. His verbal Kamma is straight. His mental Kamma is straight. His destination is straight. His rebirth is straight. But for one with a straight destination and rebirth, I say there is only one of two destinations, either the exclusivity, pleasant heavens, or influential families, such as those of affluent Kshatriyas, affluent Brahmins, or affluent householders, families that are rich and with great wealth and property, abundant gold and silver, abundant treasures and belongings, abundant wealth and grain. Thus a being is reborn from a being. One is reborn through one's deeds. When one has been reborn, contact.
Yep, batteries are gone. Those mics usually work better. That's called impermanence.
It is in this way, I say, that beings are the heirs of their Kamma. The Tathagata spoke of abandoning of taking what is not given and abandoning of sexual misconduct, with discourses similar to that of abandoning taking life. He also spoke of the fourfold wholesome conduct of speech and the threefold wholesome conduct of mind in the same way.
All right. Thank you, sir. So this opening paragraph here, this opening line, the Buddha is saying monks, beings are the owners of their Kamma, the heirs of their Kamma. They have Kamma as their origin, Kamma as their relative, Kamma as their resort. Whatever Kamma they do, wholesome or unwholesome, they are its heirs. What he's saying is that nobody else can create Kamma for you. It's your decisions that lead to your results. Sometimes when people are joking, they're like, oh, don't rub your bad karma off on me. Or I'm going to give you my good Kamma here. You can have my good Kamma. It's not possible. It's your decisions that are leading to any particular result. It's not other people's decisions. So that's why you need to really get in touch with understanding and investigating this natural law so that you can understand how it works. It's just like the natural law of gravity. When we first grew up, we didn't understand the natural law of gravity, and that's why we struggled. We had difficulties with it. We fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we cried and cried and cried because we didn't understand the world that we lived in. We struggled with it. But slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of this natural law, and as we did, we might say that we awakened to the natural law of gravity, meaning we cultivated wisdom about this natural law of gravity. And that's why now we don't struggle with it anymore. We actually are able to climb ladders, to ride bicycles, to get on airplanes and fly all over the world. That's because we fully awoke. We make wise decisions. We never believed in the natural law of gravity. We can actually see the truth and verify that it actually exists. Nobody's believing that the natural law of gravity is here. We can actually see it with our own eyes. The same thing is true with this natural law of Kamma, that you can get to the point where you see it clearly with your own eyes, but you're going to need someone to help you to point it out and be able to see it. And then as you investigate it and you look at it more and more closely, you'll be able to see it yourself. That it's your own decisions that are leading to the results that you experience. So again, if there's anything in your life that you don't particularly care for, you just need to cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you'll experience different results. So here the Buddha is helping you to be able to see that you are the owner of your Kamma, that whatever decisions you make, it's leading to the results that you experience. Then he goes on further and he talks about an abandoning the destruction of life. And ultimately he talks about all the four precepts or all the five precepts and other details of the teachings in a certain way, right? So now he's saying that he does not creep along by body, speech, and mind. What it means by creeping along is if you've ever tried to keep your actions quiet, you might have done this when you were a child or even in your adulthood. You might have tried to do certain things and you kind of knew that you were doing things that was unwise and you're trying to keep them hidden from other people. You're creeping along. Maybe you're trying to hide them from your parents or your siblings, or maybe you're trying to hide certain decisions that you're making from your life partner or your children. You can't actually run and hide from the natural law of Kamma. It's not possible. If you make unwise decisions, you're going to experience unwholesome results. It's only a matter of time. So if you're creeping along, then ultimately what the Buddha teaches you, it's not necessarily in this particular teaching. He talks about being reborn as a creeping animal, that you will creep as an animal. But when you're not creeping along, he's saying that your Kamma is straight, meaning that you're making wholesome decisions. You're making wise decisions to not creep along. You're completely comfortable with people seeing what it is that you do and the decisions that you make on a daily basis through your verbal conduct and your mental conduct and any kind of bodily conduct. And that means your destination is straight. Your rebirth is straight. The goal of the teachings of the Buddha is not to be reborn. But this cycle of rebirth that he taught, you can actually independently verify it. Right now, you might be believing that you only have one life, but there's no evidence for you that has proven to you that you only have one life. You're just believing it because somebody maybe convinced you to believe it, or you convince yourself to believe it. But you can get to a point where you independently verify the cycle of rebirth and you can see that it's true. But you might not have that wisdom right now of how to actually do that. But that's something that you can cultivate as you go farther on the path. You can actually learn what it takes to be able to independently verify this cycle of rebirth. So by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind's so peaceful and joyful, you're not going to be reborn because you've eliminated the causes and conditions that produce it. But if you're in the unenlightened state, that means that when you get to the end of this life, there is going to be rebirth. The Buddha never uses rebirth as a way to guilt, shame, or fear you into learning and practicing his teachings, because again, he's just sharing out of the kindness of his heart, out of compassion for all the people. He's not trying to force anybody or convince anybody to do anything. He's just helping you to be able to understand what he knows about this world and what led to his peace and joy. So if you're interested in that same peace and joy, you can experience that. So it's true that if you have this wholesome moral conduct through your body, your verbal conduct, and your mental conduct, then if there is rebirth, it's going to be a straight rebirth, meaning that you're not going to go down into the lower realms. The Buddha taught 5 realms of existence. He taught the hell realm, the animal realm, and the afflicted spirit realm, which is the ghost. Then there's the human realm and the heavenly realm. And all these beings are in the same time and space. They're not permanent existences. Beings are moving in and out of these different realms at different times. Being in this human realm is actually one of the best places that you could actually be, because this is the ideal existence. You actually have the ability to learn, grow, and develop and actually train your mind. You have kind of built-in motivation, because those painful feelings that you experience, like anger, sadness, frustration, and others, that tends to be the motivation that people need in order to be able to be dedicated to training their mind. Where in some of these other places, you either can't train your mind or you don't necessarily have the motivation to do so. So the Buddha is going on here just kind of talking about how your Kamma is what determines your rebirth, and being reborn into certain place is a straight rebirth where you're experiencing this improvement perhaps in the way that you're actually being reborn. So do you guys have any questions on this chapter? Anything you guys would like to ask?
Yeah, just with regards to rebirths, I guess it's like reincarnation basically, and Kshatriyas and Brahmins is kind of an affluent Indian religious sect, a religious cult. I'm not sure what they are.
Sure.
Yep.
So Kshatriyas are a group of people that the Buddha held up as a population of people that were essentially doing things really well together. They were cohesively living together in harmony, and he kind of held them up as kind of like almost like an ideal society. Obviously, they had challenges. They weren't perfect, but he used to talk about them as like this group of people were practicing teachings very well, and they were very successful in their harmonious relationships. Brahmin are like what we would probably refer to as Hindu priests, and people really aspire to be in this kind of sect or this group of people, this clan of people, where today not necessarily the case, but that was the case during the lifetime of the Buddha. So that's why he's talking about, those are kind of affluent or maybe perhaps desirable places to be reborn. One thing I'll share, since you mentioned the word reincarnation, is what the Buddha used in the Pali language is the word samsara. And this has been translated over the years mostly to the cycle of rebirth. This is how people talk about it. Or some people refer to it as reincarnation. But these things mean different things. So samsara is this continuous rebirth over and over and over again, where what reincarnation is usually described as is people talk about a soul, and then there's this soul that is, kind of the same person is happening over and over and over again, and the soul is the same in all of these existences. This isn't what the Buddha actually taught. The Buddha never taught that there is a soul or there isn't a soul. He actually left that as an undeclared teaching. It actually conflicts, the idea of a soul conflicts with the universal truth of impermanence and with the universal truth of non-self. So when someone's using the terminology reincarnation, this isn't what the Buddha actually taught. Even the cycle of rebirth, which is very common as well. This isn't the best way to think about it because there's really nothing that's actually being reborn. It's a new existence every single time. So even though the Buddha used the word samsara in English, people have been translating that to the cycle of rebirth for a very long time. If you look at what the Buddha is talking about with this cycle, he's talking about a brand new body and a brand new mind every single time. So the way that you might think about this is the cycle of new existence, that it's a new existence every single time. So this being that's sitting here today isn't the same being that was here in the past. Or if you don't get to enlightenment, it isn't the same being that's going to exist in the future. It's going to be a brand new body and a brand new mind. So I would encourage you guys to think about it as the cycle of new existence rather than the cycle of rebirth, because that helps bring your mind more to an understanding of what's truly occurring as part of this process. And it's your Kamma that is going to determine whether you are reborn or not, and if you are reborn, in what situation. Remember, your Kamma is just the results of your decisions. It's nothing mystical or magical. It's not some gray cloud that's following you around. I've heard people talk about bank accounts that you're depositing into and withdrawing from. This is not true. It's really just a sequence of events, that there are certain causes and conditions that produce a certain result or a certain effect. And now, if you understand this natural law more and more, you can make wise decisions and you can experience wholesome results. Because when you understand that it's your own decisions that are leading to the results that you experience, you're not going to keep walking down the beach kicking up sand. You're going to stop kicking up sand. So when you start realizing that it's your own decisions that are leading to your mom and dad yelling and hollering and screaming at you, because you're yelling and hollering and screaming at them, and they're going to yell and holler and scream at you. And it's unwise to continue to do that. And if you don't like people yelling and hollering and screaming at you, you're going to need to stop yelling and hollering and screaming at others, right? Or if you don't like people being disrespectful, you're going to need to learn how to be respectful so that people can be respectful with you. So the more that you practice these teachings for an extended period of time, you'll see that you'll clean up all your unwholesome Kamma, and you'll get to the point where all your relationships are harmonious, and you'll experience a lot of peace and a lot of joy where the mind's completely peaceful and joyful. So this natural law of Kamma is what's determining what it is that you experience, but it's ultimately coming from your own decisions. And with the mind's lack of wisdom of that natural law, you'll tend to make unwise decisions and you're going to experience unwholesome results. But you can transform all of that by cultivation of wisdom. That's what the Buddha is teaching you how to do, is to cultivate wisdom. So any questions? Any more questions you guys have on this one? No questions? Okay, let's see what the next one is. This is the one that I was actually just referring to. Would you guys like to read this one? Someone like to read it? Nobody would like to read? You'd like to read, Pam?
One is reborn through one's creeping deeds. Monks, I will teach you a discourse of the teachings on creeping. Listen and attend closely. And what, monks, is that discourse of the teachings on creeping? Monks, beings are the owners of the Kamma, the heirs of the Kamma. They have Kamma as their origin, Kamma as their relative, Kamma as their resort. Whatever Kamma they do, wholesome or unwholesome, they are its heirs. Here, someone destroys life. He is murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. He creeps along by body, speech, and mind. His bodily Kamma is crooked. His verbal Kamma is crooked. His mental Kamma is crooked. His destination is crooked. His rebirth is crooked. But for one with a crooked destination and rebirth, I say, there is one of two destinations, either the exclusively painful hells or species of creeping animal. And what are the species of creeping animals? The snake, the scorpion, the centipede, the mongoose, the cat, the mouse, and the owl, or any other animals that creep away when they see people. Thus, a being is reborn from a being One is reborn through one's deeds. When one has been reborn, contacts affect one. It is in this way, I say, that beings are the heirs of their Kamma. The Tathagata spoke of taking what is not given and engages in sexual misconduct with discourses similar to that of taking life. He also spoke of the fourfold misconduct of speech and the threefold misconduct of mind in the same way.
Okay, thank you, Pam. So this is actually just the opposite of the one that we just read, where before he was talking about your straight conduct leading to a straight rebirth. This one he's talking about the crooked conduct is leading to a crooked rebirth. So it's essentially the same thing that I was talking about previously. Do you guys have questions on this one? Yep.
Yes, just with regards, because I've been coming a couple of times to these talks and meditation, and a lot of the teachings is things that you can investigate and kind of research and kind of verify. It's kind of a philosophy. With this, it feels like it's more like a belief. There's no way of proving or disproving. Like it's kind of so I just wanted to get your or get more of an understanding on that.
Sure.
Your beliefs, yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe anything at all.
Yeah.
I've independently verified these teachings. Yeah. So when someone comes to the path, they don't usually have the wisdom of how to independently verify the cycle of rebirth. Mm-hmm. So I put this in volume 11, chapter 105. I put 17 different criteria that helps you to be able to independently verify the cycle of rebirth. But it's in volume 11, chapter 105 for a reason, because, it usually takes you some time to really build up to that point where you can start seeing the things that the Buddha is teaching you. And there's other teachings that you need to learn in order to be able to see those teachings. But you're welcome to go look at it at any time. One thing that people oftentimes, even at this early stage, that you can look at out of the 17 criteria, are you familiar with déjà vu? Do you know what that is? Yeah. So déjà vu, for those of you guys that are familiar or maybe unfamiliar, is it's like when you're doing something and it feels utterly familiar. It just feels so familiar to you, but you know that it wasn't in this life because you've never even been to that place before. There's like your first time there, but it's like, oh my gosh, this feels so familiar to me. Well, that's your residual memories from your previous lives bubbling up to the forefront of your mind, that you're actually having these memories from your previous lives. This is why? Because you've had previous lives before, and now you're remembering that. But usually that happens for like 5-10 seconds, and people just discount it and they push it aside and they just forget that it even occurred. But that's what that is. That's memories from your previous lives. That's just one of 17 different ways that you can actually verify the cycle of rebirth. But it's not something you need to run out and go do today, because I encourage people to focus on the core central teachings and set aside the cycle of rebirth until you get to that point. But it is something that you shouldn't believe. You should never believe anything, and you should be able to investigate all of these teachings. And if you're studying with a dedicated teacher who you have confidence in, when they are sharing teachings with you, they should be able to show you how they've independently verified those teachings. And then it's up to you to be able to do that same work. And that's how you get to this wisdom that you've cultivated to understand true reality, because you've independently verified these things.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. I don't see any other questions here. So let's go to the next chapter. Maybe we'll make this our last one. Yeah, this is a great chapter to end on. This is chapter 34. Would someone like to read this one? Vipaf, you got a mic in front of you? Oh, it's probably don't have batteries, right?
At minimum leads to deeds. Monks, the destruction of life, repeatedly pursued, developed, and cultivated, leads to hell, to the animal realm, and to the realm of afflicted spirits. For one reborn as a human being, the destruction of life at minimum leads to a short lifespan. Taking what is not given, repeatedly pursued, developed, and cultivated, leads to hell, to the animal realm, and to the realm of afflicted spirits. For one reborn as a human being, taking what is not given at minimum leads to loss of wealth. Sexual misconduct, repeatedly pursued, developed, and cultivated, leads to hell, to the animal realm, and to the realm of afflicted spirits. For one reborn as a human being, sexual misconduct at minimum leads to hostility and competition. False speech, repeatedly pursued, developed, and cultivated, leads to hell, to the animal realm, and to the realm of afflicted spirits. For one reborn as a human being, false speech at minimum leads to false accusations. Argumentative speech, repeatedly pursued, developed, and cultivated, leads to hell, to the animal realm, and to the realm of afflicted spirits. For one reborn as a human being, argumentative speech at minimum leads to being separated from one's friends. Harsh speech, repeatedly pursued, developed, and cultivated, leads to hell, to the animal realm, and to the realm of afflicted spirits. For one reborn as a human being, harsh speech at minimum leads to disagreeable sounds. Idle chatter, repeatedly pursued, developed, and cultivated, leads to hell, to the animal realm, and to the realm of afflicted spirits. For one reborn as a human being, idle chatter at minimum leads to others distrusting one's words. Drinking liquor and wine, ingestion of substances that cause heedlessness, repeatedly pursued, developed, and cultivated, leads to hell, to the animal realm, and to the realm of afflicted spirits. For one reborn as a human being, drinking liquor and wine, ingestion of substances that cause heedlessness, at minimum leads to madness.
All right. Thank you, sir. So this is a very rare type of discourse from the Buddha where he's actually showing you a certain decision that you would make, and then there's a certain result that he's actually explaining. So this is actually very rare to see the Buddha teach in this way. But you can see the way he teaches is it's just kind of like a matter of fact. It's just kind of like, here it is, that if you end up doing these things, here's what it's going to lead to. And he's talking about rebirth, but we can actually take these things and see that doing these types of things actually lead to the same exact things in this life too. So for example, for those of us that have drank liquor and wine or taking any kind of substances that cause heedlessness, the Buddha is talking here that it leads to rebirth into these other places. But if you're being reborn into the human realm, it leads to this madness, right? Well, we can see that that actually is what happens in this life too, right? That if you drink alcohol, you use substances that cause heedlessness, it's going to lead to your madness. This is what happens when we do these types of unwise things. And there's other things here that we can see, like let's take one up here, like sexual misconduct. If you've ever, went around and had sex with lots and lots of different people, you can see that it's led to hostility and competition. Right? Or any of these you can actually take and you can see the same thing is true. So the Buddha is helping you to be able to see this cause and effect, or this action and result, the results of your decisions, and how this natural law of Kamma is at play at all times. Just like the natural law of gravity, nobody turns it on, nobody turns it off, nobody's actually controlling the natural law of gravity. The same thing is true about this natural law of Kamma. It's not punishments and rewards. It's not anything mystical or magical. It's not about who's at fault or who's at blame. It's just about seeing that when we make certain decisions, it will lead to a certain result. And you can verify each one of these types of things. It also helps you to be able to understand things that you're seeing in your day-to-day life. So let's just say we see somebody has a very short lifespan. It's always unfortunate when someone dies, all right? And when they die really young, it's really unfortunate. But let's just say someone dies at the age of 2 or 3. It's not about fault or blame. It's just about understanding that this individual in the past could have, we don't know for sure, but they could have potentially been doing some killing in their previous life. And this is why they end up dying early. Again, very unfortunate, but it helps us to understand the world that we live in and why these things occur. Because this being that was born into this world at the age of 2, it hasn't made any decisions in this life that's going to produce that particular result. Instead, this is coming from a previous life. And this is, again, it's not blame and fault. It's none of that. It's just helping to see this cause and effect relationship of why things occur the way that they do. So each one of these are helping you to be able to investigate and understand the natural law. And then you can look at it very closely and see for yourself that if you end up killing in this life, it leads to a shorter lifespan. If you've ever looked at any of the people who've done like mass murdering and serial killers and people like this, they tend to die very early, right? Or say you go off into war, right? You're 18 years old, you're 20 years old, you go off into war and you're killing. Well, you're very likely to be killed yourself. And that's why. So it's not just in a future life that this occurs, but it's occurring in this life too. You can't escape the natural law of Kamma. Your government can tell you, hey, go over there and kill those people, and we're not going to arrest you for murder. If you kill these people in this land, we'll arrest you for murder. They can tell you that, but the human laws are imperfect. They're not functioning perfectly because they're created and administered by human beings. But the natural law of Kamma is functioning at all times, and it's going to affect you whether you're aware of it or not. So even though your government might tell you, go over there and kill those people, you might realize how unwise that is, because if you go over there and try to kill those people, you're very likely to be killed or injured or having some kind of other difficulty yourself based on that unwise decision. So this is the natural law of Kamma of cause and effect. So do you guys have questions here on this chapter? Yes, sir.
Just regarding, thank you, David. Just regarding to you just mentioned, just got a question coming up on my mind, which is because in our life or in this world, there are so many like contradictions between like what the government tells us, or maybe like how this society works, and even like including stereotypes, like what the stereotype or the group, kind of influence like my behavior, and between these kind of things and the natures of law. So how do we balance it?
If you learn the natural law of Kamma and you practice that, you will never have any problems with your government, because the law that the government's operating on is a much lower level law that is imperfect. The laws of society are created by human beings, administered by human beings, so they're prone to error, where the natural law of Kamma is a much higher law. So if you actually function based on that, you'll never actually have problems with your actual government, because you'll be making wise decisions and you'll be able to ensure that you know the truth. If you know the truth and you've independently verified it, you know what's wise and unwise. So no matter what your government tells you or what they say, you would make a wise decision, even though other people around you might be saying, oh, yeah, you can go work at that liquor store, or, oh, you can go sell those intoxicants and drugs, and, we're not going to arrest you. Then you would realize through the natural law of Kamma, well, if I stand on the street corner, even though in some places it's legal to do this, stand on the street corner and sell crystal methamphetamine and heroin and cocaine into the community, you know that it's unwise to do that, because you can get beat up, you can get murdered, you can get robbed, you can get addicted to these substances yourself. So even though a government or the people around you might say, oh, you can go do that thing, we're completely fine with you to do that, if you know the natural law of Kamma, you would know that it's unwise. And that's why you can't believe the government, you can't believe culture, you can't believe societal norms. You need to be able to see the truth for yourself, to know this natural law and make wise decisions in each given situation. And that's what's going to keep your mind protected, and that's what's going to keep you protected, that you're not going to be putting out harm, so therefore harm won't be coming back to you.
Yeah, well understood. Thanks for explaining this. But and also, in this world, there are maybe 200 plus countries, and each government is different from each other. Some governments are kind of better than other governments, and in some places, the people sometimes it's not like people they don't have much choice. Like the government may force the humans to follow like the kind of laws, The people sometimes it's sad. I know it's sad, but it's happening.
We always have a choice. There's only one thing that you don't have a choice about. There's only one thing that you're absolutely required to do in this world, and you don't have a choice about that, and that is to die. You're going to have to die. No matter what choices you make, you're going to experience death. But everything else is optional. If we're living in a certain country that we would prefer not to be there, then we can choose to leave. And of course, there's certain resources that can maybe hinder us from doing that. That's the obstacles that we need to overcome in order to be able to now make a different decision. So we always have choices. Everything that we're doing in life is about choice. When you give up that idea that you have free will and that you don't have a choice and that you're stuck, you will maintain that mentality and you will be stuck. But when you understand that that's not true, you can actually make choices to leave or to do something different or to acquire the resources you need to leave. That's going to allow you to now understand you have free will and you can make wiser decisions. But when you lack wisdom, you'll feel like you are stuck and you will stay in that situation rather than making different decisions to experience different results. It's not the government that is causing you to experience any particular thing. It's your own decisions. So if someone chooses to stay in that environment, then they'll continue to experience the results in that environment. But that is a choice that someone's making. So as soon as you resign yourself to thinking that you don't have a choice and that you're stuck, then you will be stuck. But when you understand that you're not stuck and you do have options, you can make decisions. It's not like you can snap your fingers today and necessarily pick up and leave, but you can make decisions to move in a better direction. And now you're empowered to do that and you're not stuck. And that is the true reality of it. But because the mind lacks wisdom, it will consider itself to be stuck. And now because of that, it will actually be stuck because it won't make decisions to improve and make things different for themselves. You're welcome.
Okay. How about in situations where it's like blackmail? And maybe somebody, really all sorts of bad people out there, really. They might say, well, I'm going to kill your mum, your dad, your brothers, your sisters, unless you go out and kill or rob or do something like that.
In each of these situations, there were decisions that led to this. Again, it's not about blame or fault, but there's decisions that led to this. For example, there's some societies where people regularly get kidnapped and they regularly get attempted to be coerced into doing something like what you're talking about. If you choose to stay in that environment, then you're likely to experience that. Whereas if you understand that that's what's going on in this region of the world, that people are regularly being kidnapped and people are regularly having these things happen, then you can choose to leave out of that situation. Again, you might not be able to snap your fingers and immediately leave today. Potentially you can, potentially you can't. Each situation's different, but you can choose to leave out of that situation. But if somebody's saying to you, hey, you need to kill this person or else I'm going to kill you or I'm going to kill other people, I wouldn't kill anybody. At this point in my life, there's nothing that I would do. You could hold a gun to my head or anybody else's head and say, kill that person or else I'm going to kill you. Okay, go ahead, kill me. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to kill somebody else. So you have an option. You have a choice. Someone might be trying to pressure you to make decisions the way that they want you to make it. But at the end of the day, it is your choice. It's your free will choice of what you choose to do. When you have craving, desire, attachment in your mind, when you have anger, hatred, and ill will, when you have this ignorance or unknowing of true reality, you will make unwise decisions. But when you purify your mind of those things, you'll make wise decisions in each situation.
I think it's easier if you say, want to kill me, fine, kill me. But I think it gets more difficult when you say, well, I'm going to kill your mom or kill your dad or kill somebody else.
That's because of your attachment. If someone held a gun to my wife's head and said, you kill this person or else we're going to kill your wife, I'd say, okay, do what you need to do. I'm not going to kill somebody else. Because that's their choice to kill. Once I make the choice to kill, I'm causing harm. And now that harm is going to come back to me. I'm not going to kill somebody. It doesn't matter. But if you're attached to your mom and you're holding on to your mom and you're wanting her to be permanent, which is what the unenlightened mind does, when they hold a gun to your mom's head and said, if you don't kill somebody else, I'm going to kill your mom, then you're going to go kill somebody else. They're using your craving. It's getting triggered in your mind, and now you're choosing to go kill. But that's a very unwise decision. Very, very unwise decision, because now you're going to experience harm in that situation. This is not how I understand. I know that you don't understand it in this way, and this isn't the way your mind currently thinks, But when you understand craving, desire, attachment, when you train your mind to let that go, you can understand me looking at them and saying, okay, if you need to kill my wife, go ahead. That's your choice. You understand that that's normal for somebody who's trained their mind that doesn't have craving, desire, attachment. But for someone who has craving, desire, attachment, who has a lack of wisdom in their mind and has ill will towards others, they're going to go off and kill somebody. But there's no way that anybody can force me to kill somebody else. It's my choice of what I choose to do in this world. There's only one thing that I am required to do, and that's to die. Everything else is optional. And that's the beauty of this world. You have complete free will. But when you make decisions through a lack of wisdom, you're going to tend to experience unwholesome results. You're going to tend to go out in the world and make unwise decisions because the mind just doesn't understand. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of curious, like, what does the Buddha think about like happiness? Because like happiness and fear, like I think in their teaching is like very like impermanent, so it can like flee like really easily. So like if you experience like a happy incident, should you just feel happy from the bottom of your heart, or should you kind of like try not to be attached to it?
Okay, so you need to understand the difference between conditional happiness and unconditional happiness. Conditional happiness is what you experience now, that based on some condition, you will be happy. Like if it's sunny outside, you'll be happy. Or if your boss came and gave you a raise, you'll be happy, right? That's the conditional happiness based on some condition. And that happiness is temporary because it's going to arise, it's going to change, it's going to fade away because the sun is not permanent. So if you base your feelings on the sun, that means when it's raining, you'd be sad or frustrated. Or if you get really happy when you get this raise, well, eventually that's going to wear off and you're not going to be happy. You're going to want more and more and more. So that's what an unenlightened being experiences, is conditional happiness. An enlightened being experiences unconditional happiness, that there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for them to be happy. They're inwardly happy. They're not basing their feelings on external circumstances. So that's why their mind can remain permanently peaceful and permanently joyful. So you need to get rid of this conditional happiness in order to be able to get to the unconditional happiness. If you keep allowing your mind to form feelings based on impermanent situations, then that means you can only be happy when those things are occurring. So your mind's never going to experience the unconditional happiness. So you need to be able to see conditional happiness as just as much a part of the problem as the painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, others. Like it's intuitive and understandable that you're working to eliminate those types of things, but you also need to eliminate conditional happiness. This conditional happiness is like my mom and dad need to do this, and my sisters need to do this, and my boss does this, and the weather is this, and I have this kind of house, this kind of car, I have this much money in my bank account, and then I'll be happy. So basically your happiness is shrinking because there's all these conditions that need to be met. So what you're doing is you're training your mind to not experience conditional happiness any longer, because conditional happiness is your mind's up here and you're happy, but then when that thing changes, your mind goes down here. So if you allow your mind to have conditional happiness, that means the painful feelings are waiting for you right around the corner. It's only a matter of time. So you would like to get to the point where your mind's not doing that. So the Buddha teaches you that when conditional happiness is arising, and it will arise as a bodily sensation first, you usually get tingling across your shoulders, up the back of the neck, over the head, to cut that off and let it go. Cut it off and let it go. Don't allow your mind to experience the conditional happiness, because if you do, the painful feelings are going to come right after that. It's only a matter of time. And then by getting rid of the mind forming its inner feelings on some condition and training it to no longer do that, you will get to a point where the mind's just always happy. You'll wake up happy all day long. You'll be happy. Your mind will be bright and cheerful and glad and uplifted at all times. There doesn't need to be any condition met. So for example, for an enlightened being, if it's sunny outside or if it's raining, they're still happy. If their bank account balance is here or here, they're still happy. But for an unenlightened being, you can only be happy when your bank account balance is here. You can only be happy when it's sunny outside. So that's why your happiness is shrinking if you continue to allow your mind to experience conditional happiness.
So like I'm in this room right now and like I'm happy. Can I allow myself to be in this like happiness, like feeling the sensation?
If you're happy because you're here,
Uh-huh.
that is conditional.
Oh.
Because that means when you leave, you're not going to be happy anymore. But if you're just happy just because the mind's happy and there's no condition that needs to be met, then you can maintain that all day long. So I'm happy here too. I'm thoroughly enjoying being here, but it's not because I'm here. Because when I leave and I go over there, I'm going to be happy over there too. And when I go over there and over there and over there and over there, over there, no matter where I am, I'm going to be happy because there's no external condition that's causing it. So whenever you say I'm happy because of this, that is conditional. And that's what you're looking to eliminate. By you getting rid of that, now you'll just be happy all the time, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. You can just always be happy. And you'll make wise choices about where you're at and what you do. You know, you're not going to go, you know, to a, you know, some place that, you know, people are destroying each other and killing each other. You're not going to go to those types of places. But let's just say if you were transported to a place like that, your mind would still be able to maintain its happiness. You're not going to be in despair just because you see some unfortunate situation.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I don't see any other questions anywhere. So what? Oh, you have a question? Yes, sir.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you, David. Well, I just got a question come up from this lady's question. Let's say if I feel so sick today and I've got a runny nose and like very low level, then I try to think positively. Okay, 3 days later I will be fine. Maybe I take some rest or medicine. Is this like unconditional happiness?
So if you're unhappy when the body is sick, that's because the mind's craving permanent health. That's what the mind does in the unenlightened state, is it craves permanence. And if the body's healthy, you'll be happy. But if the body's unhealthy, you'll be sad or frustrated. That's the up and down of the unenlightened state. But in the enlightened mental state, if you experience sickness of this body, which you will experience even when you're enlightened, you just understand, well, okay, the body's sick right now. Let me just make some wise decisions to get it back to health as soon as possible. But all during the period of time where the body's sick, you can maintain your peace. You can maintain your joy. And now when the body returns back to health, you're still happy and joyful there too. So even when when the body is unhealthy, you can still maintain your peace and joy. So if you're feeling icky and nasty and frustrated and agitated and annoyed while this body's sick, that's because the mind's unenlightened. You're craving permanence. So you would like to get to a point where even when you experience bodily sickness and illness, you can maintain your peace and maintain your joy, understanding it's not permanent and eventually it's going to come to an end. Your mic's not working. Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's hard to maintain that.
The only reason
happiness.
why it's hard for you is because your mind's not trained. Because you still have craving, desire, attachment in your mind. So it's not a matter of like understanding the stuff intellectually and then just willing it to be. It's not like you learn that the Buddha teaches you, get rid of these conditioned pleasant feelings and just feel happy all the time. Well, okay, that's nice, but how do I do it? That's what the Buddha is teaching you. If you look at his core central teachings and all the other programs that I teach, he gives you the exact guidance of how to get your mind to that point. The only reason why you would say that it would be hard to experience this happiness while the body is sick is because your mind's unenlightened. It hasn't been trained. That's the only reason. So once you cultivate the wisdom of how to train your mind, it won't be hard for you anymore. It's just like the first time you learned how to brush your teeth. It was hard. It was difficult. But now it's not hard anymore. It's easy for you because you cultivated the wisdom of how to do it. So people taught you how to clean this body, and that was hard and difficult for you at one point, but now it's not difficult anymore. That nobody's ever taught you how to clean your mind. Your parents didn't teach you that. And that's why it's difficult for you to live life with this mind that has not been purified and has not been clean. So that's what I'm here to do, is help people to understand how to clean this mind. And by cleaning your mind, that's what's going to make all of this easy for you. Because by the time you get to enlightenment, life is effortless. There's nothing in life that is a struggle by the time you get to enlightenment. Everything is at ease. But of course, from where you are today to getting to enlightenment, yeah, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to take some work and effort. It's not oftentimes we talk about getting to enlightenment, people think about floating on clouds and, all these other kind of things, rainbows and sunshine. It gets very messy when you're actually making your way to enlightenment. And that's part of that inner work that you're doing in the cultivation of wisdom to be able to get there.
Well, can I further ask? Let's say when I wake up in the morning, then I don't feel good. Then I thought about going to the gym, and
Uh-huh. Yes, because you're saying because, I'm going to the gym in order to be happy, right? So that doesn't mean you shouldn't go to the gym. The gym isn't the problem. The problem is that your mind's craving and longing, yearning, and you're just actually keeping the problem continuing. So if you don't feel good when you wake up in the morning and you say, oh, I need to go do this thing in order to feel good, now your mind is stuck where you're continuing to experience conditional experiences. And again, it doesn't mean you shouldn't go to the gym. It just means that you need to train your mind to be able to go to the gym or go somewhere else and do other things and maintain your joy and your peace all the time. It takes me multiple years to guide somebody on the path to enlightenment. So in a class like this, you're not getting what you need in order to be able to fully train your mind. We just explored a few chapters, really focusing on moral conduct. That's really what it is. That's one minor component, an important component, but one aspect of your practice. There's wisdom that you need to cultivate. There's moral conduct that you need to understand and practice. And then there's mental discipline that you need to actually train your mind. So here in a class like this, you're not getting the full path. And that's why the best thing I can do is come into a class like this, teach you guys a little bit, and then direct you towards the resources that are going to help you get started on the real path, to get started from the very beginning. That's the best thing you can do. And that's why I suggest people to start with this first book. That's the best place to start, because I can tell from your questions that you haven't understood the very, very, very first teaching of the Buddha, which is where he's helping you to understand why your mind experiences these feelings. You can't get on the path to enlightenment until you understand his very first teaching. He started every single student at the very same place. So going to the gym, whether you go or not, that's a choice for you to make. But if you're happy because you're going to the gym, that means when you don't go to the gym, you will be sad. You will be frustrated. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't go to the gym. But you need to learn how to train your mind that you can go to the gym, but you can also go do other things and you can be happy there too. That's where the training comes in. And you don't understand that training yet. You haven't had the opportunity to be able to learn it in your life yet. But now you have that opportunity. Whether you choose to step forward and actually choose to start learning, it's a choice for you to make. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am. Looks like those batteries are out. Yeah, the one Vipov has actually seems to be working.
I want to ask, how can I truly believe in myself from my heart? Because I usually tend to catastrophize future events and lacking of faithful of myself and living in fear. How to stop this situation?
Okay, so something that I can say here is just a blanket statement for all of you guys, which addresses your question too, is any aspect of your life that is not going well, it's all because of pollutions in the mind that the Buddha discovered. And the solution to that is all about applying the tools and the techniques of how to uproot those pollutions and you'll be able to get to the peace and the joy and the ideal life where life is such ease. So I can't teach you in 3 minutes how to fix what you just asked about. It's not possible, because you need to be able to learn the entire path. There's an entire path here for you to be able to learn. But whether it's a lack of confidence, whether it's difficulties in a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, whether it's problems at work and a professional life, all these problems are actually coming from the exact same thing. Oftentimes people are looking at these as separate problems, whether you're having problems with your parents, your siblings, whether it's problems with lack of confidence or other things like this. It's all coming from the pollutions that are in the mind. So what I do in all the core central teachings, all the foundational classes, is to help you guys understand what those pollutions are in the mind that are causing these difficulties. And then I teach you the tools and the techniques of how to uproot them and eliminate them out of the mind. In a little class like this, that's just a short little period where we're just kind of exploring a little moral conduct, I'm not going into those kinds of things because we don't have the time to really discuss it. But in other programs, if you learn little by little each day, I will teach you guys how to completely transform your mind. But it's not going to be a 3-minute answer or a 5-minute answer. It's going to be, you're going to need to learn through reading books. You're going to need to watch videos. You're going to need to listen to podcasts. You're going to need to ask me questions. You're going to need to take courses and retreats. This is a permanent solution for you. I come here each day to teach because I know with 100% certainty these teachings work. But more likely than not, you guys will get up and you will leave and you won't spend any amount of time to actually investigate these teachings beyond just our little conversation here, because the mind tends to be very complacent. You need to be able to see that I have 100% confidence that these teachings work. I know with 100% certainty, but you need that confidence for yourself. And then you need to decide to investigate further, because I don't have the time in just our short little bit here to be able to help you guys fully understand. There's students who learn with me for multiple years and they can see that their mind's improving and their life is improving, but it takes an individual to have enough confidence to be able to step forward, to start learning slowly so that they can start seeing that improvement for themselves. So I apologize that I can't give you a 3-minute, 5-minute answer that's going to fix that, but I can give you something better than that. I can give you a multiple year journey that is going to help you to completely transform all those aspects of your life and completely solve it for you. And that's why I do it at no cost, because I know with 100% certainty that this will work for you. But you need to decide to pick up that book and either download it from our website, to take it and go print it, to get a printed version here, or to purchase it on Amazon. And then you'll be able to see for yourself as you slowly learn these teachings and train your mind that it actually works.
Thank you very much.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay. So I'm going to end class here by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand the teachings of the Buddha. If you guys would like to learn more, there's other programs that are more suited for someone who's just getting started. Like tomorrow, I have a class that I'm going to be teaching at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., which is called the group learning program. And I'm going to be teaching the frequently asked questions about the teachings of the Buddha. And then also tomorrow night at 6:30, which syncs up with the Sunday night walking market, I'm going to be doing meditation here with students. And then you can look at our program on the bulletin board over there on our website. You can see all the different opportunities for you to learn through courses and retreats, whether you're here in Thailand or you're like to learn online, because everything I do, I live stream and it's recorded. So that way you can even learn at your own pace if you can't attend live. There's help for each one of you guys. I know that you have certain struggles and challenges in your life. And that's why I do what I do, because I used to have those same challenges and I'm interested in seeing people experience this better way of life for yourself. But it just needs you to decide that you'd like to step forward and experience that better way of life. And there's help here for you. So enjoy your day, and perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Be well and take care. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.